stating he has done more for Israel than can today be said. So look, was Robert Maxwell working with Mossad? You can come up with your own opinion on that one. I'm pretty sure I know mine though. A fun fact about Robert Maxwell is that he was actually Czechoslovakian. Bro went through a whole British businessman rebrand, going from Jan Ludwig Hyman Beinman Mhoch to Robert Maxwell, which is so hilariously stereotypical. That's like a fake name you'd give to the police if you're British. It's funny because Czechia did the exact same thing that Robert did. So considering all the Israel stuff I just highlighted, it's no surprise that people believe Epstein and Ghislaine copied her dad's whole swag. He showed them the ropes, Robert walked so Epstein could run, you know? The general consensus is that over decades, this power couple built up a gigantic blackmail network by getting really rich, powerful dudes into extremely compromising positions, usually stuff with minors, then videotaping or somehow documenting the act and using that footage as blackmail. I will now list the 4 main arguments I have, which to me indicate this theory might have a little bit of truth to it. Firstly, Epstein's little black book. This is a gigantic database of names which was in Epstein's possession. We have never received a completely unredacted version of this database. That's part of what Trump promised he'd do if everyone voted for him. An obvious lie. We do, however, know that it includes 1,571 names, over 5,000 phone numbers, tons of personal information, addresses, family members, etc. Some of the unredacted names on this list include Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Tony Blair, Prince Andrew, Henry Kissinger, Rupert Murdoch, Mick Jagger, Alec Baldwin, 2 former Israeli prime ministers, and of course, Stephen Hawking.
Hey, what the fuck? Stick drift! Stick drift!
Look, my goat Einstein would have never. That's all I'm saying, bro. He would have never, man. Now, this little black book doesn't prove anything on its own. However, secondly, this theory is backed up by the colossal amounts of videotapes found in Jeffrey Epstein's possession when he was arrested. None of these have ever been released. We just know it's an insanely large collection of footage. Pam Bondi stated there's tens of thousands of videos, so we're probably talking millions of hours. And I don't know if it was intentional, but Pam Bondi has admitted that these tapes contain child porn.
The FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. To the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
It's also been stated that some CDs and hard drives have gone missing. The third bit of evidence I have which supports this general theory is the birthday letter Trump sent to Epstein in 2003, which was recently leaked by the Wall Street Journal. It contains a drawing of a naked girl with Trump's signature as her pubic hair, and the letter signs off with the sentence, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." See, it's getting a bit sticky now, you know, when you put them all together. And the fourth factor is simply that Epstein's father-in-law was the goat of blackmail, as I've discussed, allegedly. So he already had extremely likely connections to that world. That phony world, the phony world, you know?
If it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
So there we have it. Feel free to do your own research. I'm just a dumbass. I don't have any qualifications at all in this field, or actually in anything, as a matter of fact. But I personally think it's very likely that Jeffrey Epstein was doing blackmail operations. The question is, who for? Was he doing this for a country's intelligence agency? Once again, to answer this, I have some main points to go through. 1. Here is a tweet from last week where Israel's former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett denies Epstein's links to Mossad. And I think if you consider the historical record of Israeli prime ministers lying, we can basically take this this tweet as proof that Epstein worked for Mossad. I love how he ended this tweet by saying, "There's a vicious wave of slander and lies against my country and my people. We just won't take it anymore." As if Jeffrey Epstein is Israel's main PR problem right now. Like, bro, I think you got bigger fish to fry, okay? Just a suggestion, especially since Naftali Bennett, this guy, he is one of the worst Israeli prime ministers ever in terms of destroying the rights of Palestinians. Anyway, alright, let's get serious now. Fake passports. When Epstein's crib was raided, the police found a legit Austrian passport which had Epstein's photo, however a false name, a false date of birth. The listed residence was in Saudi Arabia and it contained stamps indicating travel to France, the UK, Spain and Saudi Arabia in the 1980s. Now, why would Epstein need to travel to Western Europe under a fake identity? He claimed the passport was for personal protection, suggesting it was meant for if he got kidnapped as a Jewish American traveling in the Middle East. This argument alone would obviously be bullshit. I mean, I don't know how an Austrian passport would help you out in that situation. However, we know for certain he did not primarily use it to travel around the Middle East. He mainly used it to go to Western Europe, which is very suspicious. 3. The massive discrepancy in Jeffrey Epstein's net worth. Now, on paper, he was a financier. Part of this job is providing the capital to make investments and help manage someone's finances, investments, whatever. So to work this job, you need a shitload of money, aka capital. For his entire career, Epstein presented himself as being a billionaire, which would make sense since he claimed to run a mysterious money management firm, strictly only for billionaires. This is how he had access to such high levels of society. He was always described in the media and by his acquaintances as being worth over $1 billion. However, after his 2019 death, court documents revealed that Jeff's estimated net worth was around 500 million. You ain't nothing but a broke boy. This would make it impossible for him to work as a financier in the billionaire only circle which he was reportedly working within. On top of this, he never registered as an investment advisor or broker. There is not a single record of him trading or managing anyone's assets. He did not even have a professional client list, which is extremely shocking since we all know Jeff really liked a good old client list, didn't he? It was like his whole thing. It was kind of his whole thing, bro. Essentially, how Epstein earned so much money remains completely unknown. He lived so extravagantly and operated in such high levels of society without any traceable revenue stream at all. That's weird. There's only so many people who can pay you crazy amounts of money with no trace. One being a country's intelligence agency. Just saying, just putting it out there, you know? 4. His first arrest. This is Alexander Acosta. He was the Labor Secretary in Trump's first term. This was Trump's #1 guy. Before that, he was a US attorney. And when Epstein faced his first bout of criminal charges in 2008, after all these allegations first came to light, Acosta let Jeff walk away with the calmest sentencing ever in fucking human history. After all these allegations, that's Trump's #1 guy. Before that, he was a US attorney. And when Epstein faced his first bout of criminal charges in 2008, after all these allegations first came to light, Acosta let Jeff walk away with the calmest sentencing ever in fucking human history. You know what? I'll just read out the Wikipedia paragraph. In 2007 to 2008, as US attorney, Acosta approved a plea deal that allowed child trafficking ringleader Jeffrey Epstein to plead guilty to a single state charge of solicitation in exchange for a federal non-prosecution agreement. One of the craziest things about this to me is that Jeffrey Epstein was in prison for 13 months, right? During those 13 months, he was allowed to fucking leave the prison and work. He was often given work leave. Bro, people work 9 to 5s and they don't get work leave. This guy went to prison and got fucking work leave? And then just consider how fucking obviously fake this guy's job was. It's basically like letting someone out of prison because they gotta make a YouTube video to fit their upload schedule. Like, are we being fucking for real?
Why Sigma males are more attractive than alpha males. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Anthony Spade channel.
Hopefully that's the deal the British government give me after they watch this. But I think we can all agree that Jeff was probably realistically doing some very important work for someone if they genuinely had to let him out of prison to do that work. And we're probably talking the kind of work that the government or an extremely close friendly government might have a special interest in. All I'm saying. And you want to know the cherry on the top for this point? It's been reported and widely accepted that during Acosta's vetting process for his cabinet role in the first Trump administration, he said, word for word, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave him alone." Bruh, that is just an allegation. However, it blew up loads and Acosta has not confirmed nor denied saying it. And for me, that kind of speaks for itself. Oh, and then point number 5 is just that Epstein was directly in person linked to 4 Israeli prime ministers, one of which, Ehud Barak, was extremely close to Epstein. Here is Ehud Barak being caught entering Jeffrey Epstein's house by a photographer. Note that he is covering his face. After this came out, he officially stated, "I was cold." And by the way, this was post 2008, meaning Jeffrey Epstein was a registered sex offender, and realistically, everyone kind of knew what was going on. I'm sure it was cold, bro. I'm sure it was freezing, matter of fact. I'm sure. Here is a video from that same apartment, which I think is absolutely fucking insane. I just want to mention that it wouldn't really be fair for me to point out Epstein's ties to Israeli prime ministers and not point out his ties to US presidents. Epstein had, absolutely unfathomably close relations with some US presidents, one of which is the president right now. And there we go. Make your own mind up. What I will say though is that it's not uncommon, it's not unheard of for countries like America or Israel to use blackmail within their intelligence operations. I will give you my favorite example of this. Did you know that in the late 1950s, the CIA tried to blackmail Indonesia's founding president? Their aim was to get him to cut off his growing relations with China and the USSR. So they filmed a fake tape using a lookalike of this guy and planned to threaten him with the distribution of this thing and cause some kind of scandal, However, things were a bit different back then. You couldn't just find anyone on some app to film a tape for you. The CIA had to instead hire professional stars to act out this scene. They were the only people willing to do it, and apparently these stars so good, the dude was smashed up so well that the Indonesian president actually requested that they release the tape. He thought it went so hard. He thought it would actually improve his reputation. He reportedly hysterically laughed whenever it was mentioned, and therefore the CIA never released it. And when the guy was eventually overthrown, it was of course because of some actual political shit and not anything to do with the sex tape. But I can think of someone who was offed because of many sex tapes. Jeffrey Epstein. So here's my conclusion. Personally, I don't think this guy was doing all the Island Boy stuff just for the love of the game. I'm sure there was some other crazy level shit involved. Some people will say he worked directly for Israel. Some people will say he worked indirectly for Israel by working for Zionists directly for Israel. Some people will say he worked indirectly for Israel by working for Zionist billionaires who were funded by Mossad anyway. Some people will say he was working for another country or another very influential organization, or even just a close circle of elites. But the one thing I can say for certain is that we will never know the truth as long as Epstein's old best friend is the fucking US president. Dude, I'm gonna just read you the news headline I saw pop up right now as I'm saying these fucking words. Like 2 minutes ago this happened. Republicans shut down House floor to avoid Epstein vote. Bro. Speaker Mike Johnson said he is shutting down the House operations early this week, sending lawmakers home to a 5-week summer break as Republicans and Democrat House members called for yet another release of Jeffrey Epstein's case files. Are we being for real right now?
I ran across Jeffrey Epstein at parties, at fundraisers.
President Trump, would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation?
I have nothing to do with it.
Here's a new radio clip of bro accidentally admitting he's in the files.
This is Trump accidentally admitting that, yes, he is in the Epstein files. Listen closely.
They were run by Chris Wray and they were run by Comey, and because it was actually even before that administration,
Right.
They've been running these files. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me. What? And so much of the things that we found were fake with me. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me.
So much of the things we found in the Epstein files were fake with me. Accidentally admitting, yeah, I'm all over the Epstein files. In fact, he flagged the FBI and said, hey, you guys got to go through all the Epstein files and remove all of the stuff involving President Trump.
Senator Durbin says he has received information that Pam Bondi pressured about 1,000 FBI personnel to comb through tens of thousands of pages of documents related to Epstein and flag any mention of President Trump. Hey, seems like a completely normal thing to do. It's a completely normal country. Nothing wrong with it. New photos just got released of Epstein attending Trump's wedding. Trump has threatened to take away his critics' American citizenships and deport them. For example, Rosie O'Donnell, a comedian who posted a photo of Epstein and Trump together. I'm gonna have to get ice on you. I'm gonna have to do it.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Go home to your mom, darling. Go home. Get him out of here. Out.
I don't know Prince Andrew, but it's a tough story. It's a very tough story. I don't know him, no. I never had the privilege of going to his island.
On July 18th, Trump made a big deal calling for the release of the grand jury information on Epstein. But this is absolutely not the Epstein files. It's actually the opposite. It will be heavily redacted by a judge. When he says this, he is not ordering the release of anything. In fact, he's doing the opposite. This will redact the names even more.
President Trump just achieved a tremendous victory.
And I have to admit, the general theory I was talking about, Epstein blackmailing these guys, is kind of flawed. Because why would you need to blackmail these men if they are openly pedophiles anyway?
You know about predators and things like that. I mean,
you
sure.
are one.
All right, I was going to say that. It's true.
She's a really beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time.
What? You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
What? Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket
Congressman Foley with 12-year-olds.
And
Foley with 12-year-olds. No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket.
Foley with 12-year-olds. I have an age. I don't want to.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket.
Foley with 12-year-olds.
And to finish this video, I would like to quote Zohran Mamdani. If releasing the Epstein list would collapse your government, then your government needs to collapse. Thank you for watching, guys. Please go subscribe now so I can complete my goal of getting 10 times the amount of subscribers that Benjamin Netanyahu has. This has been my dream for as long as I can remember. I'm sure because this video is about the I word country, it might not reach its full potential. So if you want to help boost it, just interact with any of these buttons, spam them, do anything. Hit that share button if you're feeling crazy, and watch out for my name on the news when inevitably something terrible happens to me in like the next 2 weeks.
Last week, one of the most revolutionary dating apps for women, T, shot to the top of the App Store download charts, and then immediately imploded after one of the most embarrassing data breaches of all time. T is an app that can only be used by women to dox and gossip about men that they've gone out with on dating sites, to warn other women about bad behavior before they go on a date. That means if you're one of the top 5% of desirable males who get 80% of the women on apps like Tinder, they're probably talking about you on T. Unfortunately, you get 80% before they go on a date. That means if you're one of the top 5% of desirable males who get 80% of the women on apps like Tinder, they're one of the top 5% of desirable males who get 80% of the women on apps like Tinder, they're probably talking about you on T. Unfortunately, on July 25th, T confirmed unauthorized access to a legacy Firebase storage bucket that was left completely and egregiously insecure. Around 72,000 images were compromised, 13,000 selfies and ID photos. Then just days later, another database was hacked that allegedly contains over 1.1 million shared posts, comments, and direct messages. In today's video, we'll find out how this app was compromised and look at all the hilarious stuff developers have been building with the hacked data. It is July 30th, 2025, and you're watching The Code Report. The world is changing quickly. Just days ago, age verification for adult websites went into effect in the UK, and similar laws are also now in place in a handful of US states. We live in a dystopian world where gooners now need to get permission from the government just for the privilege to goon online. Protecting kids from degenerate content is a good thing, but it's only a matter of time before one of these age verification datasets gets hacked. The T app, which requires women to verify that they're women by taking a selfie with their ID, is a perfect example. It was cooked up by Sean Cook, a male developer with over 6 months of coding under his belt, according to LinkedIn. But now his app is cooked after this massive data breach was dumped on 4chan, and it's kind of sad that an app meant to help women stay safe ended up harming them instead. 4chan Anons played the Uno reverse card when thousands of selfies of users on the T app were dumped and subsequently spread across the internet, and people are continuing to roast these T users as we speak. The users of this app and the victims of the breach are being referred to into 6 months of code. The T app, but it's only a matter of time before one of these age verification datasets gets hacked. The T app, which requires women to verify that they're women by taking a selfie with their ID, is a perfect example. It was cooked up by Sean Cook, a male developer with over 6 months of coding under his belt, according to LinkedIn. But now his app is cooked after this massive data breach was dumped on 4chan, and it's kind of sad that an app meant to help women stay safe ended up harming them instead. 4chan Anons played the Uno reverse card when thousands of selfies of users on the T app were dumped and subsequently spread across the internet, and people are continuing to roast these T users as we speak. The users of this app and the victims of the breach are being referred to as roasties. The Vibe coders saw an opportunity to build all sorts of ridiculous apps based on this data. Like one guy used Python to do a detailed data exploration, while another used JavaScript to take the location data from the hacked images and plot it on Google Maps, while another person made a website to rank them based on their looks. After the breach went viral, the T team released a statement, which was basically a non-apology with a bunch of corpo speak that explained how a legacy data storage system was penetrated non-consensually. What's especially egregious about this breach, though, is that the data was kept in a Firebase storage bucket, completely unencrypted and unsecured, just waiting to be found by someone on the internet. And you actually have to go out of your way to screw up Firebase this bad, because you get tons of warnings when you have a bucket or database with rules set to public, along with email reminders that tell you anyone can access this data. In addition, in the UI, they tell users that they will delete your selfie after the verification process is done, but it appears that wasn't the case. They were either lying or just highly incompetent, as some have speculated that the app itself is just vibe-coded slop, but I think that's highly unlikely because not even AI would screw up Firebase this bad. But between your AI coding agent bills, your AI girlfriend bills, and your cloud hosting bills, it's never been more expensive to be a 10x developer, which is why you should check out Hostinger, the sponsor of today's video. Their virtual private servers will give you the power and flexibility to run whatever you want without locking you into someone else's platform. And for less than $10 per month, you get a respectable 2 CPUs and 8 GB of RAM. You can see how they have a bunch of operating systems to choose from, or you could go with a pre-installed template like this one from Coolify, which lets you easily deploy any framework like Next.js or Astro. If you want freedom from our serverless overlords and a great developer experience, check out Hostinger at the link below for an even bigger discount. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Hello, I'm Andrew Main, and this is the OpenAI podcast. Today we're going to talk about ChatGPT and education. Does it cause brain rot? Is ChatGPT just a tool for cheating? We're going to speak with Leah Belsky, head of education at OpenAI, and a couple students who are active users.
ChatGPT at this point is now the world's largest learning platform.
It allows you to kind of cut through the noise and do things that you actually enjoy.
Welcome to the...
You said there's 2 types.
If you tell people that they're cutting sugar...
This is the building of the 21st century, the way the Empire State was the building of the 20th century.
Or so according to its developer, Harry Macklow.
This building, 432 Park Avenue, is the worst building in the world.
It's like a pencil, and there's so many problems with it.
432 Park Avenue is one of the world's most iconic skyscrapers, stretching high above the New York skyline. It's the proud owner of some of the best views of the city, but it comes with a checkered reputation, and it's been sending billionaires running.
This is a true New York blockbuster set right in the heart of one of the city's most prestigious districts. It's a tangled story with one hell of a cast.
So what's actually happening at 432 Park Avenue? Why are residents of New York's ultra-luxury megatower burying it in lawsuits? And is this city's most divisive skyscraper really falling apart? Standing at almost 426 meters, Manhattan's 432 Park Avenue is prime luxury real estate. To give you a sense of just how expensive these apartments are, the penthouse at 432 sold for an eye-watering $70 million. Now, we get it. Prices stop being easy to visualize once you get to these kind of numbers. So keep in mind that the median house price in New York City is around $850,000. In fact, the average New Yorker would have to work for 800 years to be able to afford this penthouse. 432 and its towering neighbours form one of Manhattan's most exclusive neighbourhoods, the aptly named Billionaires Row.
They call 57th Street in New York City Billionaires Row because of so many billionaires.
It's sprawled along Manhattan's 57th Street, a commercial zone flush with swanky high-rises gazing out over a corner of peace in the chaos.
ChatGPT is going to unlock the world for this girl, and I was not going to have to be worried in the same way.
When it comes to learning and exploring ideas, I asked ChatGPT a lot of those questions.
Tell me about your journey to OpenAI.
I think ultimately OpenAI is about a mission and about its people. And so I'll tell you at least my story. So I came to OpenAI after spending 15 years in the education space, starting up.
Types of effective training. One of them's can't say this, but one of them's hypertrophy.
Very good.
And the other one is periodization.
So periodization is the scientifically based organization of any kind of training that you want.
Okay.
Hypertrophy training is a type of training. It's just muscle growth training. It's like a fancy fucking science word for just getting more jacked, putting on muscle. That's the technical definition of hypertrophy. And when you train for hypertrophy, you can do it kind of like by feel and more or less at random, and you'll get pretty good results in most cases. But to get your best results, you want that training to be periodized. Periodization is the scientific approach to how to organize your training to get sort of roughly three things. Some of these are a bit more for athletes and not regular people. Get the best results that you can, peak at an appropriate time, abs for summer, and minimize injury risk. And taking all the science that we know, that plan that you've made because you did it in evidence-based fashion, that is now what is considered a periodized plan. So that's how those two concepts relate to each other.
What do I need to know about hypertrophy in order to be able to achieve it? Is there anything really foundational? Because I think everyone wants a bit of muscle growth.
Yeah.
I think I spend too long in the gym. I think I could be much more efficient when I'm training. What would you recommend that I start thinking about as foundational principles when it comes to hypertrophy muscle growth?
One is specificity. It's the most important principle in all of sport training and exercise science. Is what am I here for? What do I want? Because you can do a bunch of exercises in the gym and you're like, that was great. And someone's like, are you getting the results you like? And you're like, well, what I want is a bigger bicep. Like, how many bicep exercises do you do? Like, I think upright rows, maybe.
So I want a bigger bicep. If we just focus on me getting Stephen Bartlett a bigger left bicep.
So specificity is telling yourself, okay, I want bigger biceps and whatever XYZ other muscles. Then we move in to the principle of overload, which means you have to challenge yourself. If most of your sets, someone else watching them can't tell if you're warming up or doing what's called a working set, like a real set, you have a problem. So towards the end of all of your sets, either the weights are slowing down, or even if it's the same speed, to you they feel perceptively harder. You do this, and in a couple reps you're like, that's what you want. Every real working set should be challenging. You should be approaching every real set with just a teeny dose of trepidation. Like, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to have to try. Once you have that.
And a set is a group of repetitions.
Correct.
So if I do 10 repetitions, that's one set.
One set, okay. Yeah. And so your sets have to be sufficiently heavy. Anything between roughly 5 reps per set and 30 reps per set, where the last few reps are getting close to you not being able to use good technique and lift the weights, check plus.
So there's not a perfect amount of repetitions to do?
There is. It's a trade secret, and I'd have to say it off camera to you. Right?
Okay.
NDA aside.
Okay, we're off camera.
All right, great. So it's 17. There's just tons of contextual nuance kind of stuff. Some people, some of their muscles will respond better to sets of 5 to 10. Other folks, even the same person can have muscles in their body that really respond better to sets of 20 to 30 and everything in between. But generally you get in the exercise science data, you'll have a group of people training for sets of roughly 5 reps, and another group training for sets of roughly 30 reps. And their change in muscle growth over 8, 12, 16 weeks is statistically undifferentiable, which means if I delabel the groups and you don't know which one's which, you can't actually tell me who trained with higher reps or low reps. For muscle growth, it's roughly the same.
That's so crazy. We're using the same weight. I'm guessing.
No, different weights.
Different weights. Okay.
A weight that is challenging for 5 reps is much heavier than a weight that is challenging for 30.
Okay, so I do wonder this all the time when I go to the gym. I wonder if I should be doing, 30 reps of 10 kg on my bicep, or I should be doing 10 reps of 20 kg.
They're both right answers. No wrong answers there.
And they both have the same chance of growing my muscles, as long as the strain that I experience subjectively is difficult at the end of those sets.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Which is really good news, because that's like another thing you don't have to worry about.
Which means at home I can get any range of weights versus having to get really, really big ones to grow my muscles?
As long as they're not so tiny that you're on rep number 45 and you're like, I could just do this for forever. Or if they're not so enormous that you're like, I can't really even do 2 reps of this. Anything between roughly 5 and roughly 30 reps, challenging, is really, really good.
How many sets and how often do I have to visit the gym to get this bicep to grow?
That answer depends on how much you've been doing before.
Okay.
But if you're new to the gym, 2 sessions a week with 2 to 3 sets per session for your biceps is something that's going to cause months and months and months of consistent progress.
Really?
Can you do more? Yes. Do you have to do as a beginner? No. Eventually, as a more advanced person, do you need to do more sets and perhaps more sessions to get consistently better results? Yes. But for beginners who haven't been in the gym very much or at all, the minimal effective dose is profoundly small, which is why I can say things like, if you work out for 20 minutes twice a week, you're going to get great gains.
What if I go to the gym and I do 6 sets on my biceps and I just go to the gym once a week? Does the distance between the workouts in a muscle group have an impact?
Yes. Once a week training gives you good results. But twice a week training for the same muscle gives you notably better results. Training 3 times a week versus twice, training 4 times a week versus 3 times, training 5 times a week versus 4 times is an exponentially de-escalating amount of impressive differences. So 1 time a week works, it'll get you results. 2 times a week gets you like 1.5 times the results, like way better. 3 times a week is like another little bit more results, still notable. 4 times a week is like, you got to be training for a while to notice the difference between 3 and 4. 4 and 5 is contextual and nuanced, and I can't actually tell you that categorically 5 days a week is better than 4. There are some things I would have to know about your plan and everything else to make that conclusion.
So really I want to be aiming at twice a week per muscle group.
Twice is our minimum. 2 to 4 times a week is what I say is kind of the best overall recommendation per muscle group. And if you train all of your muscles together at the same time, a whole body workout, which most people in the realm of just, I'm busy and I can't train a lot, it would be all of the major muscles of your body in the same session, twice or 3 times or 4 times a week. And that is an awesome beginner fitness plan.
What's going on in my muscles that's encouraging them and making them grow? And when are they growing? Is it when I go to bed at night? Is it when do they grow the minute that I curl the dumbbell? What's actually going on? Because sometimes understanding what's actually going on inside helps me to think through and change my behavior.
Yeah, so the primary stimulus for muscle growth is there are molecular machines in your muscles, in your muscle cells, and they are designed to detect the presence of tension. And when your muscles generate tension, the molecular detector machines go, ooh, we got tension here. And they start saying to other parts of the cells, like, hey, let's get this muscle growth thing started. Started, not happening, started. It's a stimulus of muscle growth. There are a couple of other mechanisms which might/probably have an effect. And that a couple of them are metabolite sequestration, which is a very fancy way of saying the burn. You know, at the end of a set, you're like, ah. The metabolites, the byproducts of training, if they accumulate to high levels, it's been shown in tons of animal studies and a few human studies that, like, mechanistically, they might also tell the molecular machinery that grows muscle for you, again later, to, hey, get the muscle growth process. Another one is the pump. So, you do a couple sets of biceps, you're like, oh my God, what's going on here, baby? Flash it at some girl, she runs away as usual. And the actual cell swelling itself might play a causal mechanistic role in generating more muscle growth. But we know it's probably at least 80% of the muscle growth anyone will see is because of those receptors for tension. Muscle growth, as soon as you leave the gym, is a negative because the gym is catabolic. It breaks down your muscle. Actually training breaks down more muscle than it builds. However, as you go home and you start eating food, protein, carbs, fats, and you have several meals per day, and you're resting, when the food's coming in, several hours after training begins, if you measure muscle growth consistently, which is real difficult to do, they don't do it super often. You have to keep people in the laboratory, you have to do radioactive tracers and measure all this weird stuff. Every couple of hours they measure, the amount of muscle growth that's going on in the biceps goes up and up and up and up. And it usually peaks about half a day to a day and a half after you lift, depending on how hard you went. If it's a pretty easy workout, it peaks a little sooner, and dives and drops off about a day or two later. If you train really crazy hard, it'll peak like a day, day and a half later, and then half a week later, it'll drop off back to baseline levels. But it's this really smooth curve, and you're growing muscle at every single point under that curve. So when you say, is it while I'm sleeping? Is it while I'm eating? Is it while I'm resting? The answer is all of those, except it's not at the gym. You don't grow muscle at the gym. You give yourself a signal to grow muscle at the gym. And then what you do outside of the gym matters. So some people train really hard. They don't eat right. They don't eat enough protein. Their sleep is total, insert bad word here, and their stress levels are just totally psychotic. They train hard, and then week after week after week, they're like, not seeing any results. Well, the results are actually created when you're resting, when you're sleeping, when you're eating nutritious food. They're stimulated in the workout, but that's just phase one. Phase two, the actual growth occurs outside the gym, and it occurs not at any specific time point, that magic window of 2 hours after the gym, like that's when all the growth occurs. That's actually when it just starts to go up. It's 4 days afterwards. So if you train twice a week, you train on Monday, you're growing a lot of muscle on Monday night, Tuesday and Wednesday. Back towards the end of Wednesday, you're just not really growing much more muscle. You go back to the gym Thursday, you hit it hard again, you hit that curve up. By Sunday, you're totally relaxed. During Sunday, you're not growing any muscle. Your body's really recovering a lot of that fatigue. And then by Monday, you're fresh as a pickle and you're ready to go at it again.
How long will it take me to lose the muscles that I've gained if I don't go back to the gym? So again, focusing on this bicep. I train it, I do 2 times a week, I get it nice and big. How long before it vanishes?
Great question. 2-part answer. Part 1 is within about 2 weeks of not training it, the first reduction in muscle that is detectable by modern machinery occurs. So if you don't lift for 2 weeks and we put you in an MRI scanner or a DEXA scanner, let's say a week and a half you don't lift, I can't tell. You're not really losing any muscle yet. You're just going insane. And so me personally, I'm like addicted to lifting. So if I don't lift for a week, I'm like, oh my God, all my muscle's gone. And there is some kind of intuitive truth to that, because when you don't stress your muscles, when you do stress your muscles, they get a little bit inflamed and they bulge up a little bit. So when you're not training for half a week to a week, your muscles look smaller, like they've lost weight, but it's really just all water that they lost. You do one gym session thinking like, oh my God, my biceps are gone. A week and a half later, you do one session. At the end of that, you flex and you're like, oh my God, I'm the biggest I've ever been. I was just delusional that whole time, because that stuff comes back super quick. After about 2 weeks of not lifting, we start to lose muscle, but it happens really, really slowly and takes weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. After several months of not lifting, you're going to look considerably smaller in your biceps, but probably not as small as when you started lifting, because your muscles have a certain memory, if we can call it that.
Is that true? That
Very true. Thing? Oh, yeah. And so a lot of times when you gain an initial amount of muscle, especially if you've been at it for years, it just never goes back to the same size as when you started. It's just always going to be bigger until you reach your 80s or something like that. That being said, yes, you will notice reductions in size. So 2 weeks is the direct answer there, and it's going to take weeks and weeks and months to recede. However, here's part 2, and this is awesome news. Because of that muscle memory situation, however long it took you to gain the muscles initially, it's going to take you an order of magnitude, a factor of 10-ish or so less time to get it back. If you've been more jacked before, if you've had bigger muscles, they come back to their old size. If you lifted for 8 months, you got a bigger bicep, and you stopped lifting for 3 months, and it looks about the same as when you started. If you're really careful, like, okay, it's a little bit bigger, but really it's just back to square one. Most people think, oh my God, another 8 months just to get back to where I started? Like, forget the gym. The truth is, after roughly about a month, maybe as little as 3 weeks, you're going to have the same size biceps that you did in your peak. Because the degree to which your tissue grows, if it's been a certain size before, especially if it was notably bigger than normal, and you held that around for a few months and a few years, it comes back in a way that's so fast. If you experience it yourself, it's like you don't believe that it's happening to you.
Have they been able to like scientifically test this?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, retraining studies, detraining, retraining. Oh yeah, they've done studies where they purposefully like lift for a while and they stop lifting for a long time and they see how long it takes to get back. And there's one study I'm familiar with offhand that There's a group of people that trained consistently for multiple weeks, and there's another group of people that trained consistently for a few weeks and then took 2 weeks completely off in the middle and then just started retraining again for a few weeks later. Both groups had identically sized differences in muscle at the end of the study. And so we were like, okay, so that group that trained consistently never took 2 weeks off. Could we say that they purposefully dunked 2 weeks of their time away for nothing? Uh-huh. Yeah, your body goes right back into regaining old lost muscle so rapidly that this is such great news because look, let's say you lifted consistently most of the year. Holiday season comes up, winter holidays. You're not going to the gym as much, maybe not at all. 3 weeks later of no gym, you look at yourself, you look a little small or kind of deflated, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to restart all this from scratch. Nope. 2 weeks later, you're in the best shape of your life again. If you left the gym for 6 months, 1 or 2 months later, you're in the best shape of your life again. That's how rapidly it comes back. So it's really good news for anyone who hasn't been in the gym and is feeling guilty about it. Go back, get consistent again. You're just going to skyrocket.
That is very exciting. Because, we always have, sometimes it's the trough, the couple of weeks off that makes us demotivated. Because that's crossed my mind before. Oh my God, that took me 3 months to get there and it's going to take me another 3 months to get back. But what about, so if I'm training that bicep, how have I got to think about stretching and warming up before I get going with my training?
There are many ways to do it, but there's some research on this recently, actually. You don't need much. One of the simplest ways to warm up that we recommend at RP, and our app has it in the instructions, let's say you have your final weight already picked out. Like last week you did 20-pound dumbbells for sets of 15. This week it's sets of 16 with the 20-pound dumbbells. What you want to do is you want to do very lightweight, maybe the 5-pound dumbbells for a set of 12, just to get everything moving and grooving. Good technique, same technique you're going to use. 30 seconds of rest, a minute of rest. You pick up the 10 or 15-pound dumbbells. You do a set of 8 reps. It's a little bit more challenging. You're feeling your groove a little bit, but your body's already more warm. Your nervous system's more active. Your muscles are more pliable. You rest a minute after that, and then you'll pick up the weight you're actually using, the 20-pounders, and you'll do a set of 2 to 4 reps with them, just to get the feel of that heavy weight that you're going to be doing, to acclimatize not just your muscles and your nervous system, but your psychology to okay, this is the business weight that I'm going to be using. So 12, 8, 4. Rest another 30 seconds. First working set of 16 reps. You're up. When you have multiple exercises for the same muscle group, you just need to do one set of 4 to 8 reps in that middle weight range between 0 and whatever you're going to do, just to get the feel of the exercise, because you're already generally warm in that area. One little warm-up set, rest 30 seconds to a minute, and then hit your first set. If you're switching which muscles you're using, like you were training chest, but then in the same session you started training back, that first back exercise, 12, 8, 4, the weight goes up, 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 the reps go down, 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 just a little bit of time between, and then you hit your first work set and you're good to go. You don't have to do cardio before, you don't have to get on the treadmill, you can if you like it. You don't have to do some kind of cardio warm-up. You don't have to do any kind of stretching or anything like that. You don't have to do any kind of weird Bosu ball band around your neck, crazy potentiation exercises. Just that little ramp up is basically in 98% of all cases exactly and only what you need to do.
What is a warm-up? What is going on physiologically inside my muscle? Because we all just warm up and I don't think anybody actually knows what's going on.
Yeah. So your muscle tissues, they have physical qualities that can be measured almost in a fluid dynamics terms, like viscosity and hysteresis and all that stuff. And so when you're very cold, a lot of times there's kind of a frailty implied there. As you're warming up, you're sending blood to around the muscle. The muscle itself is literally becoming warmer. And a lot of those kind of tight structures that are the proteins that are made of kind of stretchy material, they loosen up a little bit. And that allows you to go through that full range of motion and training and not actually get hurt. And that's from the muscle perspective. You also get some kind of chemical stuff that happens, and certain structures fill up with chemicals, certain structures, chemicals go down, and that gets you ready to perform super hard work. But that's part of the story. The other part is the nervous system, because your nervous system is also getting warmed up. And in technical terms, it's called potentiation. When you just show up to the gym and you, let's say we said, look, okay, we re-engineered your tendons when you were asleep. You're not going to get hurt. It's impossible for you to get hurt. Like a car would have to hit you for you to rip your bicep off. You can just go and just hit the curls right away. You wouldn't get hurt, but it would feel really strange, and you wouldn't get 4 or 5 reps close to where you're supposed to be from last week. Because your nervous system was like, what the hell is going on? I'm supposed to be doing something, so you need to warm up the nervous system. A part of that is literally like the actual nervous system itself, down to the cellular level, is flushing all kinds of metabolites through, the connections are getting stronger, you're sort of doing a little bit of kind of mini rewiring of primary motor cortex to say, oh, we're doing curls, this is how you execute this pattern. Another part is technical. Like, oh, this is the technique I'm going to do. Because if you just get in the muscle and just do stuff, like, imagine if I told you, like, hey, here's a ball, just like, go shoot some hoops, just hit that, 3-pointer shot. You're like, I need a couple shots to remind my body of what it's like to shoot the basketball. Same idea for lifting. You need to remind your body of what the curl motion is. And if you remind it a couple sets in a row, by the time you hit that real working set, that 4th set, your body's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do, which parts of the muscle I'm going to activate to contract, which other parts of other muscles I'm going to activate to relax and co-contract to make this whole thing happen.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor, become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.
你是否擅自？你是否擅自加入大？
你胡说！哎，他才是人民。
部下，我现在站在这里。
你跑！
宇宙大爆炸理论。
以前有什么？
没错，
有上帝。
大脑发动闪烁强反应。